Streaming live on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and blasttheradio.com, this is The Lowell Green Show. The number to call and be heard around the world is 613-413-2217. Or email Lowell at blasttheradio.com. And now, here is Lowell Green.
I have a question. Has the so-called Freedom Convoy, the whole situation, been blown totally out of proportion? I mean, to see what's going on in the city now, to hear what's being said, you would think that Putin and the entire Russian army was about to invade. Here we go again. Warnings that the convoy may be back on Canada Day to spoil all of our fun. We will not be bullied, says the headline, according to the mayor. The city streets in the area of LeBreton Flats, Parliament Hill, all closed off. You begin to wonder, John, like, have they sent up any tank traps? Police are going to be everywhere. I wouldn't be surprised if they don't call in, the Army, the Navy, the Air Force, SWAT teams, U.S. cavalry. I don't know. I mean, it's like it's nuts. It's crazy. It's totally, in my opinion, totally, absolutely out of proportion. It is fear-mongering at its absolute worst. You'd think, as I say, that the Russian army was about to attack. As a matter of fact, I think we have more precautions now, more blocked streets and more police and everything else than we would if, in fact, the Russians were going to attack. Meantime, the pursuit of some of the organizers of the convoy rivals the search for serial killers. I swear to God, there is more concern about people like Tamara Lynch and other leaders of the convoy than there is about mass murderers. It's astonishing. Let me just say this: if there was as much Tamara Lynch apparently is back in jail. Okay, I don't know what she did this time. Probably looked the wrong way.
She was seen in a photograph with somebody she shouldn't have been associated with.
Oh my God.
Terrible things.
Oh my God. It's seen in a photograph with someone she shouldn't have. Oh geez. What's next? I mean, the woman, very clearly this woman should be just thrown into a dungeon someplace and just chained for the rest of her life. I mean, it's unbelievable. I'm going to tell you something. If there was as much concern, as much effort to stop gun smugglers across the St. Lawrence River, as we have concern about people involved in the truckers' convoy, if there was as much concern about mass murderers as there is about a few truckers, I think we'd be almost crime-free here. It's unbelievable. I swear there's more concern about that. It just boggles the mind. I think there's more concern about people who set up a bouncy castle and a hot tub on Wellington Street than there is about Putin. I think we would be less concerned about Putin coming over here than there is about Tamara Lynch coming back to the city. Let me ask you this. Sure, the convoy was a pain in the ass for some residents of the downtown area. Not denying that. Sure, they overstayed their welcome. Sure, they should have gone home long before they did. But was it really all that serious? One of the things, John, we talked a little bit about this yesterday. When the convoy shut down Wellington Street, it was the end of the world. Businesses were dying all over the place. It was people in Ottawa were being held captive. Wellington Street's blocked off. It's terrible. It's going to destroy the city. We're all being bullied. We're being held hostage here. So the truckers leave, and Wellington Street's still closed, and apparently everything is hunky-dory. Businesses aren't affected. We aren't being held captive, et cetera, anymore. Only apparently when it was blocked by the truckers was it a bad thing. Now the city has blocked it off, and it's wonderful.
I can tell you firsthand, like I said yesterday, I had to drive through there the other day. It's not wonderful. The GPS wants you to go all the way back to the Gatineau side and over and across, over to, if you got to get to King Edward. That's not exactly convenient.
Crazy. I mean, the whole thing was so serious. people still don't. I don't think a lot of people still don't recognize the fact that for a time, your civil liberties, every single one of them, was wiped out by the Emergency Measures Act, imposed because Trudeau claimed that the bouncy castle crowd was going to invade Parliament Hill and bring in the Russians, the Ukrainians, I don't know, the Iranians, the Iraqis, the Egyptians, the Rwandans. Everybody was going to come and invade Parliament Hill. I mean, do you realize that when the civil rights were abandoned, that police had the right to go into your home without a warrant or cause or anything? Okay, that's what an abandonment of civil rights are. In other words, you for a period when the Emergency Measures Act was imposed, you had the same civil rights as they have in North Korea. Bugger all. You had no protections whatsoever. All civil rights wiped out. For what? Because they closed down Wellington? But Wellington is still closed down. I don't get it. Frankly, I've been around a long, long time, folks. I've seen a lot of things, experienced a lot of things, cried a lot of tears, laughed a lot of laughs. But I don't think I've ever seen anything like this, okay? A group of truckers, spurred on by the applause and flag waving of thousands of people, close off Wellington Street for 3 weeks. The horn honking drove some crazy, no doubt about it. But I mean, let's face it. That ended. All it took to end the horn honking was one young woman, entirely on her own volition, got an injunction. Judge granted it right away. That's what stopped the horn honking. But so, I mean, it was a pain in the ass. No question. But suspend every Canadian civil liberties, freeze bank accounts of totally innocent people. I like, and still, but still the hysteria, and I call it hysteria. I'm using this word advisedly. I think there's a kind of hysteria. Headlines in the Citizen today: "We will not be bullied," says the mayor. Who the hell bullied us? They closed down Wellington. Well, Mr. Mayor, you closed down Wellington. You kept Wellington closed. I don't go. And as I say, police presence and everything. It's like today, it's almost impossible, John, as you found out, to make your way around the city a week before Canada Day, for goodness sake. But a few, you know what, a few more protesters may come back. But John, you've been around a long time. Have you ever seen
No.
any kind of major event in Parliament Hill where there aren't protesters?
I mean,
Go
since
ahead.
since Ottawa was named the capital, I mean, that's what people do. They go to your capital, whether it's provincial, whether it's or city hall or your federal. Same thing in Washington, D.C., same thing in London, same thing in Paris. You go to the heart of power and you protest. That's what we've been doing. This one was just different because it had big, loud, noisy, stinky trucks. I mean, and listen, if you live near Parliament Hill, you have to expect that there's going to be protests. It's the same argument we've given to the people in the Glebe for years and years and years who complain about noise from Lansdowne Park. Yes, this one was different. Yes, this one was louder, but you live in the heart of power. You got to expect that there's going to be protesting.
Yeah, I mean, let's be very honest. There are a lot of advantages for living and working in Ottawa, particularly as a public servant. You're paid better than people for the most part in private industry, better
Oh, hell yeah.
pensions, etc. So there are advantages, and one of the disadvantages is you get truckers moving in. Anyway, we've gone through it, but all of that is gone. But the hysteria remains. I mean, we're now we're police and the mayor are reassuring us, don't worry, you're going to be okay this way. Well,
I wasn't worried.
who the hell was worried?
I wasn't going downtown anyway, so it doesn't really have any impact on me.
It's crazy. So my question today is, like, have we overreacted here? Do we continue to overreact? I don't recall ever being bullied. What's your candid opinion? Why the hysteria? And I use the word hysteria, as I say, advisedly. Let's face it, the reaction today borders on panic. We're having to be reassured that there be no danger. I mean, come on, be honest. What's your candid opinion about the convoy itself, its possible return, and the reaction to it? A little bit overboard? What do you think? Or was it fully justified? It was a pain in the ass, no question. But you know what? There are a lot of things that are a pain in the ass, but it sure doesn't justify suspension of civil liberties and throwing people in jail for months. Seriously, like, does Tamara Lynch really need to be in jail? How is this a safer society because Tamara Lynch is in jail? You feel safer? Hi, tickle my fanny. All right, John, any reaction so far?
Absolutely. We are on YouTube. We're on Twitch. We're on Facebook as well. So Facebook, either The Lowell Green, Milkman Show, or Blast the Radio. Of course, we're streaming on your smart speaker. Just ask it to play Blast the Radio. And the number to text here as well, 613-413-2217. Let's start with YouTube. And Tony says, yep, it's a huge overreaction because we are being led by children. Tom says, of course, the media and governments are overreacting, creating all this fear-mongering and hysteria. David says the mayor says he didn't want these, quote, yahoos back on Canada Day. Well, by saying that months ago, he provoked the protest. As for the value of your property, Craig says it doesn't fluctuate like most other Canadian cities in regards to, living in Ottawa versus living other places.
Can I just go back to the mayor's statement about we don't want these yahoos? These yahoos that came before, for the most part, were truckers who we still rely upon to bring our food, etc., etc. I don't have to go through all of this. These are, for the most part, honest, hardworking people, bloody hardworking people. And you know what? They're taxpayers. These people coming in from the West, they're paying their taxes. A good chunk of the taxes go to pay the salaries of people here in Ottawa. And we insult them by calling them yahoos. Well, that's not as bad as what the Prime Minister called them. What did he call them? Racists, terrorists, etc., etc., etc.
Yep.
But for the mayor, so they're yahoos, Mr. Mayor, okay? Do we still accept their tax dollars, Mr. Mayor? Do we still accept the food that they truck to our stores or not? Or do we just dismiss them as yahoos? We're not going to take food from yahoos, not going to take money from yahoos. I'm sick of this. Go ahead, please, John.
On Twitch, Chrissy says this is totally an overreaction. What will be, will be. I'd be happy to watch Canada Day on TV. Oh, wait. Is it televised like in previous years? I have no idea. David says Trudeau and company should be worried about the rioting when we have a lack of electrical power. Wind 638 megawatts, solar 356, blah, blah, blah. and he goes to ieso.ca. So there it is. And on Facebook, Watson is in the same boat as Hillary Clinton. Yahoos, deplorables. What is the difference? Typical liberal disdain of blue-collar workers. Watson should be ashamed for insulting truckers that way. I hate that guy even more now.
You know what? That's very true. Thank you. Disdain for blue-collar workers. That's exactly what it is. It's exactly what was displayed by the Prime Minister. It's exactly what is being displayed by Jim Watson right now. Well, we rely on these yahoos, okay? And and this has been pointed out, that just a few weeks before, these yahoos, the truckers, were being praised for still continuing, despite all of the pandemic and going back and forth, working night and day and everything else, still keep our store shelves stocked. They were considered to be heroes. But when they decide that, that an action being taken by the federal government threatened their jobs, and they all come to Ottawa, now they're suddenly yahoos. Go ahead, John.
All right, we had a phone call coming in, but they hung up. Feel free to call back, 613-413-2217. You can text that number as well. Let's go to the top of my list here. Carrie says, so true. This is totally out of proportion. What are we, a police state? Joshua on Facebook, the last convoy was out of proportion. Why not this one? By exaggerating, the leftists can use it for political divide and gain. Over to Ann. Yes, I think the Freedom Convoy coverage is so over-the-top ridiculous, it's not funny. It's too bad the police, all, are not following terrorists and drug dealers and gun-toting gang members as closely as they are Tamara Lynch.
Very true. Very true. Thank you very much. Absolutely. I repeat, if we were as concerned and just deployed as much police presence to stop the gun smuggling across the St. Lawrence River, where everybody knows it occurs, we would pretty well wipe out the smuggling of guns. If the police authorities were as concerned about gun smugglers as they are about Tamara Lynch, we would have a much safer society. Go ahead.
613-413-2217. Greg is on the phone. Greg, go ahead. You're on live with Lowell Green.
What do you think, Greg?
Hey, good afternoon. Good afternoon, Lowell. My name's Greg. I'm a former trucker.
Yes.
And I did go down to see what the guys were doing in December. And at some point, there's got to be some liability that's got to come down to the Prime Minister and the Mayor for the disaster that they've created for this movement. They decided somehow that their GoFundMe was illegal. So all this pledges that were made by honest people to honest people, like as you were saying, these guys, a typical work week for a trucker starts at about 60 hours plus. They're usually gone from home a couple weeks at a time. And another point, sort of on the side that you mentioned, we do live in Ottawa, one of the highest per capita income cities in the country, always up there. Living in a government town, and you don't go and move to live beside farmers and start complaining about the smell of the farm. Where this is Ottawa. That's.
So you think it's totally out of proportion?
Totally out of proportion. It really. They were discriminatory, slanderous, calling the truckers racist, whatever, blah blah blah. And at the same time, using the police, abusing army powers, surveying the phones. They were on one phone app. Anybody in the country could listen to anything, and they're bringing in the army to do surveillance on them and what have you. And all they had to do was talk to them.
One of the things that really puzzles me and angers me is I suspect that if this had been a group, let's say a racial group of any kind, if this had been almost any other kind of group protesting, because we've had many here before, some of which lasted more than a day, by the way, and there was never this kind of reaction. But it seems to me this reaction is simply because these are working people. These are truckers, and there is disdain in this city and among the elites for working class people. I think other than that, I don't understand it. If this had been a group of Iranians coming in here, if this had been a group of Palestinians coming in here, or any religious group, there would not have been the reaction that we saw. It's because they are working people. I'm sorry to say it. I see no other reason. Thank you very much, Greg. Thanks. Call anytime, sir. I appreciate it. Thank you. Got to get a word in here for our good friends up there in Pakenham. Listen, folks, if money is important to you, and of course it is more and more every day, I just want to tell you that they're doing everything they can at Shields to keep the prices of appliances down. Now, I mean, they're saddled to a degree. I mean, the manufacturer charges a price. They're the taxes. There's nothing they can do about that. The federal government has imposed new restrictions, which have added to the cost. But everything that they can do, Shields is doing everything to keep the prices as low as they can. And they're doing a good job. I'm not denying that in some cases, maybe a big box store can match or beat their price, but in other cases, Shields can match or beat their price. At least all I've ever asked is please give them a chance. If you need some appliances of any kind, check out the website. You'll see the prices there. You'll see all of the items listed. At least give them a chance. They're local. They're good people. Shields.ca. Go ahead, John.
Got to mention they're great for parts and service, too. Very, very helpful folks at Shields. All right. I know this is a bit cheeky, says Ann, but I vote for us to pick a day that will henceforth be known as F. Trudeau Day. For me, that happens every day. What the hey? I think we need one for Jim Watson as well. Both nose in the air liberals. Grrr, she says. Let's go to YouTube. And Boo Boo says, just wait. When Watson retires, he'll be given a Senate appointment. Bet your last dollar on that, he says.
By the way, talking about Jim Watson, I still don't understand why we can't get some better candidates. I
saw you going after Mark Sutcliffe on Facebook. Please run for mayor.
Yeah, Mark. I forget what Mark was on. It was some I don't know milestone in his life, and I wrote say for God's sake, run for mayor. I think Mark Sutcliffe would be a marvelous mayor. He's had a lot of business experience. He's a very level-headed guy.
He is.
He even on the air, he took a lot of pains not to alienate people, etc., etc. He's very honest. He's very fair. He's very intelligent. He's very knowledgeable, and he cares a lot about the city. I think he's just the perfect candidate. Mark Sutcliffe, run for mayor, please, please, please. Go ahead, John.
Except, Lowell, not everybody is, able to take on, no matter how good you are at that. You know the bullshit that comes with that job. There's always going to be a 50% element that just can't stand you.
Oh, I understand.
Why put yourself in that position?
Hell, I mean,
don't
there's
know.
80. Can I tell you something? There's 90% element that can't stand me, but I'm still around. Go ahead.
Hell, I can't stand you some days, Lowell Green. Let me see. Tom says, why don't people get it? If Trudeau had met the Freedom Convoy the first weekend and talked to them, they would have left right away, and all of this mess would never have happened. Kerry says the police or RCMP, are actually checking social media now, trying to catch anyone planning to come to Ottawa. Glenn says, overblown totally. Who is ramming this bullshit down our throats? Maybe we should all refuse to attend downtown. Michelle's on Facebook. She disagrees with you, Lowell. There were rules to her crimes. If she wasn't held accountable, you'd be fit to be tied.
All I'm saying is, if let's at least spend as much energy and time in chasing down mass murderers and gun smugglers. That's all I'm saying. Just if you're going to concentrate all of this time on Tamara Lynch, then please at least expend just as much time on gun smugglers. Would you please? That's all I'm asking. Okay. Throw Tamara Lynch in jail for the rest of her life, but I think we should go after gun smugglers and throw them in jail for the rest of their lives. Go ahead, John.
Let's go to Nelson, BC. Justin is calling at 613-413-2217. Justin, you're on with Lowell Green. Go ahead, sir.
Nelson,
hey,
BC.
Lowell, first of all, I want to tell you that I love your show. I listen to it almost every day that I can get on the air and listen. So congratulations. You're very excellent at what you do.
Thank you.
With regards to the whole Trudeau thing, Trudeau taking off, Trudeau being the worst prime minister in Canada, do you think that when this on Canada Day, if there is anything that happens on Parliament Hill, that he'll just take off again and be a coward and 100% avoid culpability as to what's going on in Canada? Do you think he'll actually
that's a hypothetical situation. I really can't comment on that. I have no idea. I don't anticipate any problem. I mean, we've had Canada Day celebrations for 50 years. There's never been any serious problems, and I don't anticipate any serious problems this time. We Canadians are peaceful people. Let's be very honest. The convoy came here. It was peaceful. There were nobody carried a gun. There were no threats made to anybody. Nobody got beaten up. So I mean, we're peaceful people. Even when we protest, for the most part, we're pretty peaceful. Go ahead.
Yeah, and that's it. Everybody I talked to at the convoy themselves, the only threat was the bouncy castle, and that was if people had spikes in their shoes.
Very true.
Everybody I talked to was completely on board with it. Businesses said that was the best. They've never seen more profits in the past week to the 3 weeks that they were there, and business was completely booming. And they just had nothing to say all the positive things.
Well, the thing that really gets me is the big complaint was they shut down Wellington St, and people were complaining this and trapped us and so forth. So the convoy left, and guess what? Wellington St is still shut down. Got to move on. Thanks. Good to hear from Nelson, BC. Beautiful, beautiful town. I was there several years ago. Just a gorgeous town. Thank you very much. John, what else have we got here?
All right, let's go to Anne. When did our priorities get so upside down? Real criminals out on our streets. Craig says, I was in the downtown market last Thursday night. It is absolutely gross. Oh, God, trying to navigate the Byward market has just become a nightmare. It really has, if you can even get to the damn thing. The press loves this, he adds. It's a distraction from Trudeau's latest scandal.
Excuse me, John.
Yes, sir.
What's the problem with the market? You say it's
Well, this has been an ongoing thing for years, long before the protests, right? So a lot of it, I guess, is just put in place to dissuade prostitutes and their johns from driving around. So you got to go 3 or 4 blocks in order to make a left-hand turn before you can go 3 or 4 more blocks to make a right-hand turn. There are a lot of streets that you just can't get up and down. But yeah, it add to that just the congestion and the nonsense that's downtown. And the sad thing about the Byward Market right now is just the number of businesses that COVID shuttered. That's the really heartbreaking thing about driving through the Byward Market. It's not what it was the last time I was there 5 or 6 years ago. All right, Coraline on Facebook. The cone, how come the vandalism on the convoy trucks wasn't in the news? The tires were slashed, airlines cut, and vehicles damaged.
Well, I don't know. I mean, there's been so many false reports. I don't know what to believe. All I know is there was no violence, there were no threats, there was no danger anywhere. And the big problem was they shut down Wellington Street. This apparently was terrible. But Wellington is still shut down and nobody thinks it's terrible today. I don't get it. Go ahead.
Because nobody knows that it's shut. See, all these people who feel affected by the convoy have not been to downtown Ottawa in probably 2 or 3 years. They don't know Wellington is still shut. Therefore, it's not something that they're going to bang into their Facebook and get upset about.
I just don't understand. I mean, the big, aside from the horn honking, which was stopped very easily by one young woman, not
She's
the
great.
mayor, not the mayor,
Yep.
not the prime minister, not an MP or anything else. One young woman got a court injunction to stop the honking. That's how easy it was to do that. So aside from the honking, then the closing of Wellington Street, like, what was the big problem, to be honest with you? Okay, what's the big problem? It was the closing of Wellington, but it's still closed, and it's no problem. Go ahead.
Speaking of people who I'd love to see run for council, someone like her would be fantastic.
Yep.
Very articulate, smart, great vision. All right, here's a text at 613-413-2217. Lowell, I think this is overkill for sure. I can only think the government is trying to talk tough because they don't want to put out again, costing them policing funds. Their inactions, and being totally disconnected to the common man is what's causing all of these demonstrations.
No, but let's keep in mind, in the past, there have been upwards of 100,000 people gathering on Parliament Hill and the downtown area. I mean, I know because I was there for many, many years.
Sure, we've all been there.
And these people, in many cases, came from all walks of life, all parts of the country, all races, all colors, all creeds. It was wonderful. Bringing their dogs with flags attached to them and so forth. And there was always a very heavy police presence. There were problems. Sometimes people get a little over exuberant. They drink too much, et cetera, et cetera. Young guys with testosterone get in a fight, but that's normal. You get 100,000 people from all walks of life together under any circumstances, you're bound to have a few problems. I don't see anything. And can I tell you something? I didn't even see that during the convoy. I didn't see anything like that. There were no fights that I'm aware of. Go ahead, John.
We had an electronic music festival over the weekend. We had 2 overdoses and 1 death. I mean, this is just what happens in everyday life. People get high, people party too much, bad things happen. Kelly says government overreach big time. Lisa says Carolyn Meehan would be a great mayor. I disagree, but to each their own. Craig says they have. So this is to the Byward Market question. They have portions of just about every block closed for restaurant patios. Half the stores are boarded up, and there are homeless people everywhere. That is absolutely true. On YouTube, your friend Boo Boo says, let's leave the Freedom Convoy alone. They have the right to their voice. They are not creating violence. Let's worry about bigger issues. Over to...
Yeah, maybe the homeless. Maybe if we concentrated as much on the homeless in the Byward Market as we do about Tamara Lynch, maybe we might create a better society. Just my idea. Go ahead.
And listen, I'm starting to see the homeless. There are a lot more places in the city than just downtown. So, I mean, we've got a real problem on our hands that needs addressing. You're right. Peter says, Mr. Trudeau wants no opposition. G7 leaders were too busy mocking Putin the other day. Such adults. Trudeau will keep it all locked down on the Hill. House won't sit in person till after the next election, at least for the most part. DL is on Facebook. She says it's an act of deterrence in advance of July 1st. They're just trying to make an example of Tamara Lynch. They want people to know they mean business. Don't try it again, blah, blah.
Try what? What?
Don't try protesting again is what I assume she's saying.
Wait a minute. You can't protest in North Korea. You can't protest in Vietnam. I don't think you're allowed, if that's...
That's her point. That's her point. Don't you dare try protesting in this country again. Oh, the nerve of you. Yeah.
Sorry. Okay. I got
a little facetiousness there. I didn't.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm a little slow brained today.
Today, I got your back, sir. What is the BS this morning? If you don't like Trudeau or protest waving a Nazi flag, you can't attend Canada Day. Who cares? They're protesting. Let me see. I wasn't worried before. I'm not worried now is a comment on Facebook. You have to ask, why didn't a city lawyer think of this injunction, says Craig. Why was it a member of the public? That's an interesting question. It's our constitutional right to protest, says Craig. Let me see. Corleen, you mean Watson's declaration of a homeless emergency hasn't solved this problem? Again, facetiousness. And it seems that governments want us all to be in a state of fear, says Anne. And this comment just moments ago from Kellyanne. She says they want people to get angry, but freedom fighters are peaceful protesters. There you go.
Got to move on. Thank you very much. Thank you all. Some very good comment today.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Back tomorrow.
The Lowell Green Show is seen and heard live around the world at 2 p.m. Eastern. Connect with us online at blasttheradio.com/Lowell Green. Can't join us live? Download the Lowell Green podcast. Available on Apple, Spotify, Google, and more. Ask your smart speaker to play the Lowell Green podcast. This is a production of blasttheradio.com.